Hi. I wanted to give you a couple of notes about a question that came up on the American Revolution in the unit. There was a question about um, the French and the Indian War. And so I wanted to clarify. You need to read that carefully in the content because the French and the British had Indian allies. So each tribe or different groups allied with different sides of Europeans, either the French or the British, of course. And so the British were known for having great trade goods. The Native Americans enjoyed trading with them because their products, basically their bribes were the quality of the products was better than what the French had. But the French treated the indigenous people that they came in contact with in the Ohio Valley and northward into Canada. They treated them with more respect, so to speak, than the British did. The French were not here colonizing. Um, in fact, the French citizens, they had to try to beg them to come and occupy the land up in the Great Lakes region and eastward into the St. John's region up the St. Lawrence River because people at home in France were pretty happy. They didn't really care about leaving. So the French never really colonized to the extent that the Brits did. The Brits were dissatisfied on a variety of fronts: the economy, the persecution for religious beliefs, those kinds of things. So, and they wanted money. They were very much into, greed. The Brits they gave lip service to missionary work, to converting these savage heathens, quote unquote. But the French actually did try to uh, proselytize to these indigenous people, and they actually went into their villages and helped them in other ways, not just trying to convert them. Um, the monarchs were very much into conversion, and so they gave it lip service. But honestly, the individuals who came, particularly the British, they were they they were very much into their own prosperity financially. Even the Puritans originally came here for, avoiding persecution for religious beliefs. It quickly turned into, oh my goodness, we see what we can do here. There's all kinds of great natural resources that we can turn into money. So within a generation or so, they were on to bigger and better things than just the religious freedom. Um, they wanted to make money. And so by the time of the Great Awakening in the 1730s, the ministers were very disturbed because the people had become very materialistic. And it was all about the dollar, not the dollar, the pound at that point. But so anyway, there's that point to make, that the religious freedom, and the thing is about the Puritans and the separatists were the Pilgrims, and they were a different group than the the people who founded Boston. They were the Puritans. The Separatists wanted to separate from the Church of England entirely because they believed that it could not be purified, that it was never going to be fixed. So they just wanted out. The Puritans wanted to purify from within, and they thought that it might be fixed and many of them could go back home one day. It didn't turn out that way. They thought that God was punishing them for all their sinful behaviors back at home. So there's that. Um, I wanted to talk about, the other thing about Puritan religion. The Puritans wanted religious tolerance for themselves only. People talk about this country was founded on religious freedom. Oh, so wrong. This country was founded on religious freedom for the Puritans only. Puritans were not tolerant. That's why they threw Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson out and sent them off and Roger Williams founded Rhode Island. If you didn't agree with the church leadership, who were also the town leadership, then you were out. They banished you. That was it. So, this idea of religious freedom, this country was not founded on religious freedom except for that one group. So they were very intolerant. Now, in Pennsylvania, that was a different story. The Quakers were tolerant. They were anti-violent. They were pacifist. They were William Penn and his group. They were very anti-violence. And there were others, but Quakers were particularly tolerant. Rhode Island was very tolerant. They were on their own, and most anything went for them. And to a degree, the in New Netherland, which was what is now New York, the Dutch were very tolerant, which is why the Pilgrims had gone there originally in 1606 ish, 1607. They went there because the Dutch tolerated all religions. So, um, so there's that. What I was really originally was wanted to talk about was the fact that I have a video clip that I'm going to post in this announcement. There'll be this one, but there'll also be another one. And it is a clip from The Last of the Mohicans, and it's pretty violent. But The Last of the Mohicans, it bears no resemblance to James Fenimore Cooper's book, The Last of the Mohicans. There was a major artistic license taken with that book. However, the history part of this is actually correct. I've watched it so many times. And it is Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing in this movie. Um, but and it actually is accurate as far as, for example, this military conflict that they have with the Native Americans, and the Native Americans come after the British troops who are leaving Fort George, and this is up in upstate New York, and it was actually filmed in North Carolina, but it was upstate New York, and it's up near Fort Ticonderoga, and this is a part of the French and Indian War. And what I wanted to get you to pay attention to is the way that the difference in the warfare, that the strategies that these guys use. You've got this, you'll see that they're going, the Brits are in red coats, so they're not trying to hide from anybody, which is a problem in this situation. So they're all in a row, and they're all having their drum, and they're going in rhythm, and they're stepping at the same time, and it's all beautiful and honorable and courageous, and they are going in a straight line, and their supply train is behind them with all the camp followers, and they take, it might be, a mile long. Some of these supply chains and these were the supply trains were 3 miles long, so they were basically sitting ducks. So there you'll find that the indigenous people are going to come out of the woods, and you look at how they fought based on how the Brits fought, and you have to notice too, the Brits are being attacked on all sides, and they wait until the commander says to fire. You think if I'm not being fired upon that I'm not just going to let loose and start firing my musket when it takes me 3 minutes to reload? It's going to take me 3 minutes to reload that musket. And meanwhile, these people are coming at me with hatchets and their own guns, and that's just not happening. Well, they're so trained in this European style of warfare that they're not worried that they're all getting mowed down here by these Native Americans. They're only listening for that guy for the commander to tell him to fire. So you need to watch how this is a disadvantage for those Brits, and it is you need to realize that this is the way that they fought the American Revolution too. Now, did the Patriots fight as like British soldiers, or did they fight like the indigenous? Oh no, they had learned in all their decades here, they had to fight like the indigenous, because if you're fighting the indigenous, if you want to win, you better be fighting like they do, behind the trees. Whereas the Brits thought that was the coward's way out, was to fight from behind the trees. In fact, they had no idea how to fight behind trees because there weren't that many trees in England left because they had taken them and built houses and built ships, which were then destroyed in wars, in all the many wars that England was in. So they had basically no real uh, big forest left in England, which was one reason they were so excited about the virgin forest here in North America, because they could use those um, huge tall trees for spars for their ships, for masts for their ships that were then going to be destroyed in another war. So there's this. You need to watch this because this is a great footage, not so much because of the French and Indian War, but because this is what's going to continue into the American Revolution. I hope this is not too long, but I did want to explain those few things, and I hope you have a great afternoon.